Dr. Hagerman, we do have a quorum.
Hey, Sean, is it okay to start? All right. All right. This meeting is called to order at 9:05 a.m. Executive Director Ross, can you please take the roll?
President Haley's not with us today. Vice President Hagerman,
Here.
Superintendent Horn,
Here.
Member Catanese,
Here.
Dr. Clegg,
Here.
Dr. Kaur,
Here.
Dr. Cruz Rivera,
Here.
Dr. Hightower,
Here.
Member Kravickas,
Here.
Dr. Webke,
Here.
Dr. Hagerman, you have a quorum.
Wonderful. So we will open this meeting with an announcement that Dr. Daniel Kaur will be stepping down from the state board after 9 years of service, 7 of which he served as either vice president or president. Dr. Kaur has been transformational board member and leader, and his good work has positively impacted the lives of millions of Arizona kids. So I'm going to read a statement from President Haley, but before that, I just want to say a huge group of us started all at the same time, and President Kaur at that point was instrumental in just kind of keeping us the momentum going and keeping us all connected and getting us on board. So I personally appreciate this. And President Haley is out of the country at the moment, but she sent this on for me to read on her behalf. So on behalf of the Arizona State Board of Education, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to Daniel Kaur for the 9 years of dedicated service. Dr. Kaur's good-natured demeanor, quick wit, and humor has brightened every meeting. His genuine excitement for our students, especially the students of the month and those who have come before us to share what's on their mind, has inspired us all. Through his steady leadership, he has championed educational expertise, excellence, workforce readiness, and solution-oriented policies that have strengthened education across Arizona. We often joke that Dr. Kaur led much of his tenure without a gavel, but it was never needed. His strength of character, fairness, and ability to hear all sides of an issue guided the board with respect and integrity. We are especially grateful for his commitment to showing up in person despite the distance and for the warmth and thoughtfulness he has brought to every meeting and discussion. Personally, I am grateful for his mentorship guidance as we have led the board through some challenging and exciting opportunities. As Dr. Kaur embarks on this well-deserved retirement, we wish him continued success, happiness, and fulfillment. We will deeply miss and fondly remember his leadership, humor, and most of all, his steadfast dedication to Arizona students. That's on behalf of President Haley.
Thank you.
Executive Director Ross.
Dr. Kaur, Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, Dr. Kaur, members of the board. We have a few things to honor Dr. Kaur for his service, but before we do, we are going to put on our AWC sunglasses because it is a great day to be a Matador. And so
Sunniest place on earth.
for those of you who don't know, Dr. Kaur comes into every meeting with his AWC sunglasses on his head. So we were able to work with Ashley over at AWC to get some sunglasses for us. So Dr. Kaur, just to echo Vice President Hagerman and President Haley, we are so thankful for your service to the board. We are so thankful for the steadfast fairness you've brought to every meeting, to every issue, and then the humor with which you are able to expertly diffuse any situation to get everybody back to that firm understanding that we're all here to help kids. So in order to recognize your service, we have a few things, and I'm going to bring them up in just a second here. First, we have a glass apple engraved with your years of service, which we're very excited to give. We have a binder full of letters from stakeholder groups from across the state honoring your service and thanking you for your service. These stakeholder groups, including the board, including the department, WestEd, the Arizona Rural Schools Association, Arizona Guppy Mac, ASA, all of the groups, they represent about 1.2 million kids and a large number of teachers and schools, and they all wanted to reach out to thank you. And then, as important, Dr. Hagerman mentioned it, you had wanted a gavel for the entirety of your service. You now have a gavel to take with you into your future, engraved with your name and years of service. So
it's been an absolute honor. 9 years flew by, seems no more than 8.5, really. 2 governors, 3 superintendents of instruction, 3 executive directors, a number of deputy directors, and a lot of folks here, and they've all been amazing and brilliant. And I've made a lot of friends, learned a lot, and hopefully made a little bit of difference. And I just wish you all the best of luck as you continue doing the good work. And it'll be nice to have the last Monday of the month back on my calendar. So I wish you all the best, and this was very kind to all of you. So thank you very much. It's been an honor.
That was wonderful. So Superintendent Horn, your report next, please.
Yeah, as the state superintendent of schools, I also want to say a word of tribute to Dr. Kaur. He's always been constructive and positive, and it's been a pleasure to work with him. And I have a little different perspective because I've been in Yuma and was at the his community college as well as high schools that have worked with it. And he's been an absolute master of using the community college to help the high schools do better. And that's something very special. So I pay tribute to him not only as a member of the board and as president of the board, but as somebody who's done an absolutely terrific job with his community college. Thank you. I have 2 other happy things to talk about. First of all, I'm talking about some finalists in Arizona of the National Presidential Scholars Program. Each year, the United States Presidential Scholars Program honors our nation's most exceptional students for their academic excellence, leadership, and commitment to service. Out of thousands of candidates across this country, only a select few are chosen. Today, I want to recognize 2 outstanding finalists who exemplify the best of Arizona's youth and whose success reflects the dedication of their families, teachers, and schools. Our 2 finalists have demonstrated not only remarkable academic ability, but also character and commitment to excellence. And academics and character are both very important. Academics without character can be dangerous. Character without academics can be powerless. So it's great to find people, students who combine both character and academics. The first Arizona finalist is Isha Sutaria from Scottsdale, currently a freshman at Princeton University majoring in electrical and computer engineering with minors in entrepreneurship, organization, and quantitative decision science. That's obviously a smart person to study those things. Isha recently graduated from Basis Charter School in Chandler, where she was involved in leadership roles, mock trial, and Red Cross. She has also volunteered for over 200 hours, primarily at her Baratantium Dance School and at the Scottsdale Public Library. Isha recalls meeting her most influential teacher, Joseph Bostaff, in 10th grade when she took her AP Computer Science course. This is what she says. I was nervous about going in because I knew this was a difficult class. However, Mr. Bostaff encouraged collaboration and helped us realize that we all had different approaches to each problem we coded, but all that meant was we all had something to learn from each other. Mr. Bostaff was always willing to help me when I got stuck and never made me feel bad about it. His projects and demonstrations made me love coding, and I realized I wanted to pursue it professionally. He was very encouraging with every activity and always made me believe I could excel anything I worked towards. In the future, Isha hopes to become a project manager and eventually pursue entrepreneurship, leading innovative teams to create technologies that improve people's lives. That would be a big positive contribution to our state and our country. Is Isha here?
Superintendent Horn, I believe both of the presidential scholars are away at college.
Okay.
Your team did reach out to them,
Okay.
let them know that they were being recognized at the meeting and that their teachers were. So we've sent them the live stream link so they can watch. So
So they can
I'm sure
watch
they're
me, okay.
very appreciative of your words.
Okay. The second finalist is Johnny Yu from Tucson, who attends UC Berkeley, where he's enrolled in the Management, Entrepreneurship, and Technology program and is actively involved in Berkeley Venture Capital and Vertical Farming. Obviously, another very smart person just to take those courses. Johnny graduated as valedictorian from Basis Charter School. That's already a tremendous achievement because Basis is a very academic place. Tucson North, earning distinction as a National Merit Scholar, American Invitational Mathematics Examination Qualifier, and two-time state champion in personal finance and competition math. He founded his high school's business and finance club and led the team to a state championship and propelled Basis Tucson North Math Club to national prominence. Johnny's most influential teacher was Vincent Caratanudo, and this is what he says about him. And I really enjoy being able to honor not just the students, but the teachers that have inspired them. Mr. Caratanudo was my business club's first faculty advisor, and he helped nurture my interest in business. He also greatly influenced my leadership philosophy through his example. He'd always ask me, how can I help you succeed? And he helped energize the club with his warmth and infectious enthusiasm. He's been a great mentor to me throughout high school. Johnny is passionate about building a smarter, more sustainable future through efficient systems and AI-augmented solutions. He aspires to a career in venture capital, focusing on applied AI and agricultural technology, hoping to build more productive, resource-efficient, and resilient food systems worldwide. Thank you to both finalists for representing Arizona so well on the national stage. Your accomplishments inspire all of us at the department as we daily strive to raise academic outcomes of all Arizona students and remind us of the power of education to shape a brighter future for Arizona and our nation. On behalf of the Arizona Department of Education and myself, I extend my heartfelt congratulations to Isha, Johnny, their families, and their distinguished teachers. And then finally, we have the Arizona History Teacher of the Year. And since of all the subjects, history is my passion, this is very special for me. Started in 2004, this Gilder Lehrman program recognizes excellence in the teaching of history at the K-12 level. Each year, thousands of teachers are nominated by students, parents, fellow teachers, and community members, shining a light on the important work they do. Each state convenes a committee of history teachers, professors, and other education professionals to review the nominated teachers in their state. Each state winner is awarded $1,000 and becomes a nominee in the national contest. The national panel of eminent historians, former winners, and master teachers selects one national winner for the $10,000 award. The Arizona committee consisted of leaders and teachers of the field. Jeron Velasco is a Filipino cultural exchange teacher, a speaker and educator with experience in both the Philippines and the United States. He currently teaches social studies at Dishabaco Community School in CBQ, Arizona, where he empowers Indigenous students through culturally responsive teaching, historical research, and civic engagement. When the committee reviewed submission for Arizona History Teacher of the Year, Jeron immediately stood out, not just for his dedication to history education, but for the passion he has instilled in his students and the civic knowledge he fosters within his community. His commitment extends far beyond the classroom. He collaborates with students to uplift community voices, facilitate local historical research, and prepare for national competitions where students have consistently excelled. In addition to his teaching, Geron is raising his own children, pursuing a doctorate, and participating in speaking and learning events around the world. Not only has Geron been named the 2025 Arizona History Teacher of the Year, he was also selected as a top 10 finalist for the National History Teacher of the Year. We are proud to honor Mr. Geron Velasco and celebrate his remarkable contributions to education. We look forward to all that lies ahead.
Good morning to the devoted leaders, educators, and staff of Arizona Department of Education, and to everyone present here this morning. Please accept my deepest gratitude and warm thanks. This recognition is not only a personal honor, it is a living symbol of what history can become when it opens its doors to every voice in every community. At this Chibico Community School, I have witnessed something extraordinary. The power of of young people discovering that history is not just written for them, but by them. When we began the History Club, it was a leap of faith. Many students once told me that history had never been on their side, that it was always someone else's story. Their words reflected the pain of being left out of the narrative. But I reminded them, this is the essence of American democracy. Here, you have a seat at the table. Here, your story matters. And slowly, belief took root. One student stepped forward, then another, until their courage became contagious. They joined National History Day, produced films for the Arizona Jewish Historical Society, and stood confidently on the floor of YMCA Youth in Government here in the state capitol. Learning that their ideas could shape policy, conversation, and change. This transformation would not have been possible without the unwavering support of many. To Hannah Rude and Elaine Muyendo, their leadership has strengthened how teachers connect history and humanity. Dr. Maril Oreno, our superintendent, and Principal Enfield in our school board, who remind to our dear colleagues and friends and parents. I dedicated this award to my parents, to my beloved wife, to my children, who reminded me every morning that the future must be taught with compassion and hope. But most of all, I dedicate this recognition to my students, the dreamers, the storytellers, the voices who once rose from silence to now speak with strength. You are proving that democracy is not found in textbooks. It lives in the courage of youth and the young people who tell their truth. Keep researching, keep debating, keep writing your history, because every time you do, you make our democracy stronger. May the good Lord bless you all, bless the great state of Arizona, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
That concludes my happy report.
All right, Executive Ross, your report now, please.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, we go from happy to happy. We're going to honor some amazing kiddos today as well as part of our State Board Students of the Month. We have 2 students with us today. Up first is going to be Lene Sotsi, 8th grade student from Chinle Junior High School in Apache County. Lene was nominated by her principal, Sean Martin, who described Lene as bright, intelligent, motivated, member of National Honor Society, deeply committed to Navajo culture, and she shares her heritage with others, performing songs at school and community events. Known for her big smile and eagerness to learn, for volunteering, and for being a consistent role model to her peers. So Lene, why don't you come on up?
Ja, ich edo shidane, she elene so sinisha, nanish ejidane etachinisha, ki ani bashishin, ashi bashisi, do tuchuni the tutzoli dashinale, shema eya venji ovish ninshe, shije eya Franklin so shivle. Shema sana eya Evelyn Woody William and shiche eya Daniel William. Nella Chanela Hestin do Chanel Heston, A. Louise do Norman Clavelier, Dage Helena do Nasha. I am, hello everybody, my name is Lene Sosi. I am the Miss Chinle Junior High Princess for Chinle Junior High school. What I love about this school is the unique dedication and education spirits that the teachers and staff display to the student body, especially our principal, Sean Martin. As my time as a student, I have accomplished many goals. One of these goals I have been participate in National Junior Honor Society, where I have completed 20 hours of community service, helping my community in certain ways I can. Another goal I have achieved is having the title as Miss Chinle Junior High Princess 2025 to 2026. These goals specifically have helped me shape the person I am today. And what really inspired me is my family's words, especially my mom and my older brother. They would say, "Stay in school, get an education for yourself because they want me to be better than them and to be able to succeed in life." So throughout the school days, I have put myself to work and to try to help myself grow and educationally. Um, and also taking the CUSD vision upon me, which is being competitive, unique, successful, and driven. For me, in my futures, I want to be a Navy doctor to help patients like I help my community. And these things I live up to my daily life and my career. And I am very grateful to receive this recognition for the state of Arizona. And not only that, I want to personally myself to say thank you to my principal and my family. And just thank you guys.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. We have another amazing kiddo with us today to be recognized by the state board. Corelli Alvarado is a 12th grade student at San Luis High School in Yuma County, nominated by school counselor Elva Lorenzo, known for her intellect, resilience, and determination, consistently challenges herself taking the most rigorous courses offered at her school, ranked number 2 out of 622 students at a Rockstar High School. That is no mean feat. Participates in dual enrollment with Arizona Western College, pursues CTE opportunities, is a founder and president of the Interact Club, vice president of Academic Decathlon, a CTE ambassador, National Honor Society member, and serves in an Arizona Western College Ambassador of Excellence. Corelli, why don't you come on up?
Okay. Hello and good morning to everyone that's here present and who is here to support me and just here to show their support more than anything. Before I begin my speech, I would like to thank the Board of Education for having honored this accomplishment of my, well, all the accomplishments that I've had throughout my 4 years of high school. Truly, I never thought I would be able to receive such a big honor in such a way, because more than anything, all that I did was mostly purely out of, well, it was everything just out of my pure passion and ambition. And I would also like to thank all the people who were here to support me this day, who came from a long way. I mean, San Luis is 3 hours away from here. It was a long drive. So I'm really thankful that they took time out of their day to come here and support me and see as I receive such a high honor. My name is Corelli Alvarado. I'm currently a senior at San Luis High School, which, if you don't know where San Luis is located, it's at the very left corner of Arizona. That's what I always tell everyone. Very easy to find. And while it's believed that in my school there can be much diversity because it's mostly a school composed of my fellow Hispanics, throughout the 4 years that I've been in that school, I have found so much diversity in the inspiration that I found in all the people that I have met throughout my journey there. I have got the experience of finding stories from people who have told me that they will be unable to leave their community due to issues regarding their family, as well as being forced to pursue a passion which is vastly contrasting theirs. Their stories motivated me to become a source of inspiration for them, and to become to become a source of inspiration for them, that if they work hard enough, they will be able to achieve anything that any barriers that get in their way, that there will be enough time to be able to succeed in anything they set for themselves. In my high school career, I have dedicated myself to helping others, whether that was by being the only tutor in my school for the last 4 years, being the founder of the Interact Club, which dedicated itself all for community service, also being a CTE ambassador and a leader this year by helping the next generation with their post-secondary educational opportunities, and where I also received the National Statement Award for advocating in CTE at the Washington Capitol. And also most recently by being a college and knowing ambassador that will do my best to help inspire my peers. And on the side, I have also done my best to pursue my passion for STEM in a community where few women are inspired to do so. And that passion burned extremely bright, and I pursued either classes at my local community college, or also applying to different programs outside of my community, such as the Joaquin Bustos Math and Science Honors Program at ASU, where I took advanced math level courses taught by ASU professors, as well as most recently my semester program, the MIT Introduction to Technology, Engineering and Science, I think. I don't know the acronym out of the top of my head, but where I was able to investigate on the secrets of water bears, these tiny creatures that are able to withstand space conditions, and also other habitable planets outside of our solar system. these programs were a testimony of my ambition throughout all these years, where I have tried my best to go above and beyond to succeed in my dream to pursue a STEM career. I have been able to win different awards in this program, such as being able to give the student testimonial at the Joaquin Bustos Math and Science Honors Program, and also winning the Delta Award for my astrophysics course at MITE. With this, I hope to succeed in my dream to become a chemical engineer who wants to study materials for space research, such as either for making materials for the astronaut suits, or even like making the food for the astronauts to eat. And I would my dream is still to attend a university to be able to achieve my degree. In my 4 years, in my 4 years of high school, I've been able to find inspiration in the most unexpected places, whether that was through students in my community, elderly folk who still strived to finish their college degree, engineers who I met followed the most nonlinear paths I had ever found or even never thought about. Students internationally who also voiced to me their issues in their countries, which I had never come to realize such issues could ever happen, and a young girl who fought to still live and be able to do the most she could with the short time she had. And this taught me to value opportunities and to also value all the experience that I'm able to gain from all the people around me. I'm really thankful for all the support of all my inspirations, all the people around me, and I will keep working hard to still be a source of inspiration for them. Thank you very much.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, that concludes the executive director's report.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. We will now move on to item
Dr.
2.
Peterman?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Member Catanese had his hand raised for a while.
Oh, okay. A member Catanese.
Thank you, Dr. Hagerman. We just had one quick thing to say.
Congrats, Dr. Core.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. Now we will move on to item 2, call of the public. This is a time for the public to comment on items listed on the consent agenda or the general session. Members of the public may also address topics not on today's agenda. Please note that Arizona law prohibits the board from discussing or taking legal action on matters raised during a call to the public that are not on the current meeting agenda. Each speaker has 2 minutes to address the board during the 1-hour public comment period. Furthermore, speakers may not be allowed to cede their time to another speaker, and personal attacks are not appropriate. Deputy Director DePlanty, do we have any requests to speak?
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, yes, we do. First up will be Beth Hatcher, followed by Bridget Vega, followed by Katie McPherson. Beth?
Thank you. Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. My name is Beth Hatcher, and I reside in Cave Creek. I'm a former parent, teacher, governing board member, and president, and currently a substitute teacher in the CCUSD. I've reviewed every history and social science standard and respectfully ask that 4 modifications be made to the standards to be factually accurate as it pertains to Native American history. These items are not only historical, but 2 requests consistent legal practices and policies adhered to today. The first one, the doctrine of discovery, be explicitly named, as are the Constitution, Manifest Destiny, and Mayflower Compact. The doctrine of discovery established the legal basis for European colonization and westward expansion, which resulted in Native Americans being forcefully removed, aka migration, as stated in the standards. The doctrine was and remains the basis and justification for government and Supreme Court decisions, the most recent being in 2005. The implementation of the doctrine of discovery and corresponding Supreme Court decisions negatively altered the lives of Indigenous people even to this day. 2, the standards mention genocide and names the Holocaust specifically. I request that Native Americans be also named. The U.S. government-sanctioned form of genocide took place on what is now U.S. soil. 3, when describing Native American migration across these lands, I ask for the phrase to read forced migration, which is also factually accurate. And last, since Columbus Day and Thanksgiving are named, Indigenous Peoples Day should be added as well. Because of the laws and policies in place today, and through the lens of an educator who believes in teaching history accurately, even history we find uncomfortable, I ask for the board to consider the inclusion of the 4 requests. Our students are entitled to learn history completely and factually. Thank you for your consideration.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Next up is Bridget Vega, followed by Katie McPherson, followed by Noah James Markham. Bridget?
Good morning. As a community advocate and mother, I am deeply concerned by the tactics being used against victims. It is beyond comprehension that such uncertainty still exists among those who took an oath to protect our children. We have seen patterns of grooming right before our eyes, yet with no real action being taken. During the hearing with Ryan Rednauer, what we heard was disturbing. I don't know if we told the police. I don't know if he retired. I don't know if I have authority. How can we trust a system that answers this way when children's lives are at stake? Ryan still sees this case as just an overly touchy teacher issue, even after grooming training. When asked what he's done to protect the children while towing the company line, his response was clear: nothing is being done. Meanwhile, Phillips and others continue to stick to the script for the lawyers. 5 years later, the victims still wait for justice. Then there's Chalamet, the administrator in Castile case. Despite students crying, disclosing trauma, and showing clear red flags, still, she did nothing. Yet she remains as an assistant principal, untrained and unaccountable. To the state board and to the superintendent, Tom Horn, I am pleading with you. Implement mandatory statewide grooming and human trafficking training. Red Light Rebellion does provide it for free. That training goes beyond short videos and truly equips educators to recognize and respond. Our children are crying out for help. They are dying. They're numbing their pain with drugs, sex, alcohol, and dying by suicide at an alarming rate. I personally advocated for 3 girls in recent weeks, age 13, 15, and 16, groomed by older men and lured by drug dealers on CUSD's campuses. Let me be clear. By protecting enablers, you are condoning this. We need accountability, digital reporting tools to protect our children. Please stand with us before we lose any more children. To the children, we believe you.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Next up is Katie McPherson, followed by Noah James Markham, followed by Harry Maxwell.
Good morning, Superintendent Horn, esteemed colleagues. My name is Katie McPherson. I'm here as a parent of a student enrolled in the technical theater program at Castile High School in Chandler Unified School District in the 2021 school year. Over the past 5 years, families have been dragged through a painful process while serious failures remain unaddressed. Two Castile families came to me in crisis. I'm an advocate in the community, expressing suicidal thoughts after being touched by teacher Patrick Power. I reported it, as any parent and mandated reporter would do, to an 8th grade Castile guidance counselor and the superintendent, Frank Narducci. He did not respond to my reports of inappropriate touching by Mr. Power. Those students later became known as Victim 1 and Victim 2 in the Patrick Power case. Power had allegedly sexually abused a girl in a storage room in the Tolleson Unified School District, High School District, before coming to Castile. And Tolleson also failed to report it to ADE or their governing board. That shows how dangerous it is when adults fail to act. In this case, the respondents and Tolleson collectively chose not to report to ADE, the governing board, or law enforcement. That was deliberate, not accidental. Now some claim they were treated unfairly because hearings were consolidated, even though they acted together to protect one another. Meanwhile, stall tactics, chaos, color-coordinated T-shirts, and intimidation continue to benefit the district and respondents, while families and students bear the consequence. I personally was added to their lawsuit against you, the State Board of Education, by Jason Phillips, a current principal in the school district, despite already providing my documents and never being called to the stand. This is a clear act of retaliation and intimidation to reporters. We are entering year 5 of delay, deflection, and damage. It's time for honesty, resolution, and leadership. Thank you.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Next up is Noah James Markham, followed by Harry Maxwell, followed by Patrick Mannion. Noah James? I don't see him here. Let's go to Harry Maxwell. Online. Harry?
Mr. Maxwell, can you unmute yourself?
How about we go to Patrick Mannion, come back to Harry in a second. Patrick Mannion?
He's connecting.
Good morning, everybody. Today I'm hopeful that you'll break the existing record and adjudicate agenda items 6 and 7 in less than 30 seconds with no consideration or discussion whatsoever. And Mr. Kaur, I'm rooting for you. I think you can motivate your colleagues to be back home in time for lunch. And happy board retirement. In 2022, Ms. Brantingham, at the time representing the board against several administrators involved with the Hamilton High hazing case, she was particularly fervent in her defense of the domain of the hearing officer to determine the format of the hearing when it involves numerous respondents in the same case, whether they be severed or grouped. In March 2024, the same Ms. Brantingham flip-flopped completely with the assistance of Mr. Kaur of this board and dared to present the case as a situation as a miscarriage of justice because the hearings were grouped. Last week, I watched a Superior Court hearing where the Attorney General's office, representing you, the board, again flip-flopping and arguing to protect and defend the discretion of the hearing officer to issue or not issue subpoenas in discipline cases. Why are you playing fast and loose with the law, and why do you support this? And Mr. Kaur, before you leave, I'd really like you to respond to that, and the law does permit you to do that. Thank you. You can have your 30 seconds back.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Next up is Harry Maxwell, and then that will be followed by David Borofsky. Harry, are you available now?
Mr. Maxwell's connected and is able to speak, but is not unmuting himself.
All right, so let's go ahead and go to David Borofsky.
Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be here with the State Board and our good friend, Dr. Daniel Kaur. After 20 years of serving the state of Arizona, Daniel thinks he's going to retire. And I wish him good luck in that, because some of us have tried 3 or 4 times and we're not very good at that. And I suspect Dr. Kaur will not be either. Not only has he done an amazing job for the State Board of Education with the K to 20 view of that, while serving as chair and vice chair or vice president and president of the board, he has done an amazing job in Yuma. The work that the community college has done there, partnering with 3 universities, partnering with all of the school districts. And if you look at the data, and this is no offense to other school districts around the state, but the college going rate in Yuma is the best or one of the best in the entire state. Completion of the FAFSA is the best in the state. And that doesn't happen just through K to 12 only. It happens through the amazing partnership that Dr. Kaur has created in Yuma County as a leader of education. And then you can roll that over. And I know this is a state board meeting, but I would be remiss and in trouble if I didn't talk a little bit about AC4. And I just have to tell you that the Arizona Community College Coordinating Council has a great deal of respect for Daniel Kaur. And we are extremely happy that there are no gavels at AC4 for Dr. Kaur to get his hands on. And I would just end, and I could talk for a long time, but I won't do that. But I could end by telling you, I will end by telling you that it will forever be a great day to be a Matador for Daniel Kaur. Daniel, thank you for everything you have done for K to 12, for the community colleges, and all educators and students in the state of Arizona.
Thank you, David.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, that concludes this call to the public.
All right, we will now move on to item 3, the consent agenda. Is there an item or items from the consent agenda that a board member would like to pull and discuss? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve items 3A through 3G?
I move approval as presented.
Jason, do you want to do second?
Sure, second.
Member Cantonese. So we have a first with Dr. Kaur, a second with member Cantonese. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So we then move on to the general session, starting with item 4A, Executive Director Ross.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Back in September, we had a presentation from Sean Smith, the Chief Accountability Officer from the Arizona Department of Education, regarding potential cut scores for letter grades for the 24-25 school year, which are slated to be released after the vote by the board. Sean presented a couple of different options. The prior year cut scores, and then a standard deviation reset, which is usually done when there's been a significant change to the system, something like a new assessment. In the interim, since the September presentation, our amazing A through F technical advisory committees have met and discussed and made recommendations to the board to maintain the prior year cut scores for this year, as there have been no significant changes to the system. Sean's going to come up, not present again since we just had him present in September, but he is here to answer questions. And then just a very quick timeline for you all. If, depending on how the board votes today, obviously, then the department will then be charged to release letter grades. Historically, that has happened within the same week as the board meeting. In statute, it has to happen by November 1st. That's Saturday, so probably between now and Friday. And then as soon as letter grades are released, schools have until November 15th, this year, November 17th, because the 15th is a Saturday, to file appeals. And then the appeals committee will review those. Jessica from our team will talk about that in more detail in just a moment. So if there are any questions for Sean?
Are there any questions? All right. Seeing none. Do I have a motion that the board approved the 24-25 accountability cut scores as presented, which are the prior year cut scores, and direct the Department of Education to release the public file with school and LEA letter grades prior to November 1st, 2025?
So moved.
So we have a first, I think that was Dr. Clay. And do I have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. I think it was that
Dr. Webb.
Dr. Wecky. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed? And ayes have it.
I just didn't know if you were explaining your vote. Okay. Dr. Hagerman, the motion passes.
All right. So we now move, I feel like I jumped a page here. Hold on a second. Oh, we now move to 4A, Executive Director Ross.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Item 4B is presentation and discussion of possible action to adopt the policies and procedures for A through F appeals. Jessica Mueller from our team presents these designs and presents these each year to make sure that the appeals process is done transparently, and she is here to explain that.
Okay, thank you so much. We haven't presented on the A through F appeals process in the past few years for our board meetings, so we just wanted to provide a summary and review and allow the board to offer any questions and feedback about the process. When we are building out the A through F appeals policies and procedures, we do work with our technical advisory committees to review those each year and ask questions about it, make suggestions, and we inform them about appeals every year as well that we've received so that they can be knowledgeable about them. Clickers, there we go. So what is the A through F appeals process? In statute 15241, the State Board of Education establishes an appeals process for a school or local education agency to appeal that summative letter grade, or in the future, an indicator letter grade as well, once that process has been voted on and approved by the board. The committee is comprised of 3 different board members. We have Dr. Hagerman serving again. We have Dr. Clay serving again. And this year, Dr. Webke will be joining us as well. They are evaluating the situation of appeals, and I'm going to get to some of the nature of different types of appeals as well. We have a website that lays out this timeline on our board website, and we also have some guidance presentations specific to each of the categories for appeals, and it has contact information, of course, there as well for schools to reach out to us. The timeline that will follow is the same as last year, where the board will take action on committee recommendations in January 2026. We pushed this from that December meeting last year because it just allows more time for the department to review appeals, the committee members to review appeals, and us to schedule those committees. So as Dr. Executive Director Ross mentioned, we are going to close the appeals window on November 17th at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So that will be Monday that week. So these are some of the conditions and how the committee members are evaluating each of the appeals. So the first is just, is the application complete? Are they including evidence to substantiate their reasons to appeal? Are they citing a valid reason for appeal? That would be community, school events or emergencies, adverse testing conditions, a tragedy in the school, or incorrect data. And then the third one is really the meat of it. Is it related to the school or student performance? Was it outside of the school's control? And does this have a substantial negative impact on the summative letter grade, that event occurring? And then did they take the steps that they needed to mitigate the impact on accountability outcomes? This would be reaching out to the department for support, working with school counselors, things like that, depending on the grounds for the appeal. So we accept appeal applications through a digital Google form. If there's any issues with that, we can work with the school because some schools are not able to access through a Google account. And that is something that is open from the moment that the letter grades are released and then continues through November 17th at 5 p.m. this year. You can upload supporting documents into that application, and you can as well see the contact information to submit anything if you have any troubles. There are 2 different types of appeals that get reviewed by the committee. The committee will look at the application and decide if it should be an expedited appeal or a non-expedited appeal. With an expedited appeal, that will be looking at the application materials. And if there are no questions about taking action from those materials, then that the committee would determine that it should be a document review only. Those are the ones that typically get assigned to an agenda first, and they're typically done in like a consent agenda format, like our board meetings. With the non-expedited appeals, those are where there might be additional questions or presentation that's needed to explain the application or to ask different members of the school to complement the application and what's been submitted. And so the determination for those, we make every effort to get information to schools about which case it's going to be, because we know the calendars tend to get rough at schools as well in November and December. So we do want to decide on those quickly and just let those who are expedited that they do not need to be available for the committee at that time. So there are these 4 different types of grounds for appeals: adverse testing conditions, school community events or community emergency, school tragedy, and incorrect data. I would say about 60 to 70% of our appeals each year are in the incorrect data piece. And this is also very similar to when I've looked at other states and the appeals that they have for their letter grades as well. Tends to be very data-driven, data-focused types of appeals on any type of school accountability. So some of the evidence that the committee might receive is just information about student outcomes, student achievement, whether that's test scores or other areas of student achievement like chronic absenteeism. There might be some media reports that they're submitting if there was a community emergency, and narrative that's submitted from folks like school counselors, district testing coordinators, if there was an issue with the testing process. And so that tends to be, and then with the incorrect data, the Department of Education would look at all of those student outcomes and examine whether that would have an impact on the summative letter grade. If there is no impact on the summative letter grade, there's no action that the committee can take, because that's the only thing that is laid out in statute is the letter grade action. There's no underlying data that can be appealed or adjusted. 2 or 3 years ago, we initiated the LEA letter grades compliant with the statute as well. The method for this is just a straight GPA where each of the school's letter grades are assigned a 0 to 4 point score, and then it's just divided by the total number of schools within the LEA. And so when an LEA letter grade is appealed, they would just appeal those individual schools' letter grades, and they would be recalculated if there's a difference. Okay, and so that is everything that I've presented right now. This is a very collaborative process with the Department of Education, and we lean on them a ton for all those 60 to 70% of incorrect data appeals each year. So we are in debt to them each year with the appeals.
All right. Are there any questions about the appeal process? All right, just seeing none. Do I have a motion that the board direct the A to F Technical Advisory Committee to investigate? Oh, am I going one ahead? I feel like I'm good. Do I have a motion to adopt the 24-25 accountability appeals process procedures and timeline as presented? Go ahead. Member Kavickas, and I heard a second online.
Kathy Webke.
And Kathy Webke, Member McKee. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So we move to the next item. And the next one is we will now move to 4C, Executive Director Ross, the item I almost moved to immediately.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. As the board is aware, we started holding A through F study sessions back in August. Each study session focusing on one of, in August and September's cases, 2 of the large indicators that make up the overall summative letter grade for schools. August had part 1 of proficiency and growth, and September had part 2, the sequel. We have a 3rd meeting coming up in November to cover English language learners. The design of this has always been that the board would have these study sessions. These study sessions would generate areas of interest or questions from the board that they would like our amazing A through F technical advisory committees to investigate. The technical advisory committees will investigate these proposed ideas, bring data back to the board, with the board then at a later meeting possibly making changes to the A through F system for future letter grade releases. This is the first item in that cycle. Like as I said, the board had 2 study sessions, one in August, one in September, and there are 4 proposed ideas to have the TAC investigate, which I will read right now. The first is related to proficiency. It's using current performance level descriptors, research, using current performance level descriptors in research. The TACs will recommend a database allocation of points for the proficiency indicator. There are 2 related to growth. The first one is research the impact of the removal of the current cap on growth scores for schools and make a recommendation to the board. The next one is to research and recommend the database equivalent weights for student growth between performance levels. And then fourth, this one is sort of overall for the system, research and recommend a model to reflect a student's movement out of the minimally proficient range from the prior year. So these were the dominant ideas that emerged from those 2 study sessions, and we will bring those to the TACs upon board approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Member Kavickas?
Good morning. Thank you. I want to first thank the TACs and everybody who serves on my notes, an insane amount of time and research. And I see our fearless leader back there. So thank you very much for your service. One of the questions or one of the ideas that came up in the last one is how can we ensure that we're embedding all of the federal accountability to the extent that we can, as well as all of the goals. So all of the title programs, ESS, they all have federal goals that they submit in federal reports. And I always wanted to make sure that we were sending a consistent message.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, Member Kravickas. And so we've had some really robust discussions with board members about this desire to look at the alignment between federal goals in similar areas like proficiency and growth for specific subgroups of students to the A through F system. The process piece of this, the most appropriate place, I believe, where this discussion slots in will be when the board has reviewed the primary indicators. Each of those reviews are going to eventually lead to a much larger discussion about cut score setting. That is ultimately where a lot of this will lead. So having this conversation about aligning those goals, because those goals, where the alignment would occur is in the cut score setting, partially. And so the idea that we have that earmarked for a future study session, we're going to cover some of the indicators first to get the sort of ball rolling on it. But the ultimate culmination is always going to be in that cut score setting, and that will connect directly to federal goals. So yes, so thank you, Member Kravickas. We've had some great discussions about this, and it's baked into the process.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. All right.
This is Lupita. I don't have a question. I guess I have more of a comment than a question.
Okay.
And I have really appreciated the work study sessions. And I also appreciate the investigation period on possible changes, particularly because we will have a new assessment soon. So we have to have those thoughtful discussions on the topic.
Thank you. All right. Do I have a motion that the board direct the A to F Technical Advisory Committee to investigate, model, and make recommendations to the board on potential revisions to the A to F summative letter grade system as presented? Do I have a motion?
So move.
Dr. Clay, do I have a second? Member Kavickas. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right. So now we move on to item 4D, Executive Director Ross.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Item 4D relates to a request from the Arizona Department of Education to open the professional teaching standards for revision. With us to present on that request today is Associate Superintendent Sid Bailey. Sid?
Good morning, Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, and board members. I'm here today to request permission to review the Arizona teaching standards with support of a stakeholder committee that we would form. In January of this year, we received an executive order 14151 from the U.S. Department of Education, along with the OMB and OPM, that is directing us to end all discriminatory programs, including DEI, DEIA, or whatever, under whatever name that they might appear. Additionally, in February of 2025, the Department of Education at the federal level notified us that they intended to take appropriate action looking for compliance as a condition of receiving federal funds. Federal funds of the state of Arizona are in excess of $860 million. So we request to open Board Rule R-7-2-602 to revise and update those standards, which include language that's no longer aligned with current federal directives. The Arizona State Board adopted the National INTASC standards in December of 2011 with modifications that they had made that year. They were designed to for performance evaluation, professional development, and teacher preparation. Key shifts in the 2011 revisions included focus on learner-centered instruction, emphasis on personalized learning, integration of the 21st century skills, support of diverse student needs, and promotion of collaborative learning environments. They are organized in 4 different domains, as you can see. The original standards were created and adopted in 1992, and as I said, the last revisions were done in 2011 at the request of the federal government. The purpose and impact of those teaching standards are to ensure high quality instruction for all students, align teaching with college, career, and life readiness, and encourage continuous growth and reflection and reflective practices among educators. At the department, we formed a committee of 3 to review the course catalog of our 3 state universities, met with the deans of the colleges of education, and provided feedback regarding their school's pedagogy to strengthen teaching practice that is less focused on theory and more focused on practicality. Members of that team included Margaret Dugan, our Chief Deputy Superintendent, who's a graduate of the University of Arizona, Associate Superintendent Michelle Udall, who's a graduate of Arizona State University, and myself as an Associate Superintendent, who is a graduate of Northern Arizona University. All university deans agreed that the teaching standards that they teach does not align with federal mandates and need adjustment, but they reminded us that they must align to board-approved teaching standards. And as you can see, the current use in Arizona of the Arizona teaching standards, the teaching is used for teacher evaluation as guidance. It's an optional component for measuring educators' effectiveness. It's also professional development guidance to the field as an optional guide for growth and reflective practice. But for educator preparation programs, as the universities are, the programs must be aligned to board-approved professional teaching standards and or the national standards. So this is just a sample of standard 3, original standard language. that we need to take a look at and to see if there's anything that we believe might be troubling to the federal government. I'm not a prophet and can't predict what we would come up with as a committee to study this. But as an example, perhaps under Standard 3 Learning Environment 3D, the teacher manages the learning environment to actively and equitably engage learners to organize, allocate, and coordinate resources of time, space, and learners' attention, and perhaps equitable may be a stumbling block to the nation. I don't know. That may be something the committee wants to look at and decide if that word is really necessary. Another example may be in 3F, the teacher communicates verbally and non-verbally in ways that demonstrate respect for all learners, and perhaps a period it will suffice there as and not require the responsiveness to the cultural backgrounds and differing perspective learners bring to the learning environment. And it goes without saying. But again, what we are asking for is to open, we're requested this board opens R-7-2-602 to revise and update the Arizona Professional Teaching Standards and bring back to this board for their consideration for any changes that we might make. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Excuse me, any questions?
Do we have questions? Dr. Kaur.
Jump. The hell, it's my last meeting. Why not, right?
Yeah.
Jump right into it. Do we have any sense that the federal government is actually we're in crosshairs with the federal government, that we're in any way potentially going to lose this very important funding that you've referenced? I just want to make sure that we're not a solution in search of a problem.
Yeah. Dr. Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, and Dr. Kaur and committee. Well, we've got evidence that our universities, two of them, have already been challenged by the federal government that are concerned with their course curriculum. And we've received two different documents warning us from the Department of Education that they expect us to comply with all of their requests to eliminate DEI and the like, and anything that would be construed as such. And that if we don't comply, our funding is on the table, and universities have already been told that.
And a committee will look at this. Talk more about that. Who's going to engage in this process?
Put together a stakeholder committee from across the state, north, south, rural. We'll put together a committee that I'm sure will include some superintendents, principals, and teachers to walk through each line by line, these teaching standards, and have a discussion about, it's been since 2011 since they've been looked at anyway. And maybe it's time for us to go through and look at that and try to come up with a recommendation that can come back to the board that we feel is not only adheres to the whole notion that it's not about teaching and learning. It's really teaching for learning. The only reason to teach is so somebody can learn. So let's make sure that what we're doing aligns with that. Mm-hmm. And that we're comfortable with it, and we can bring it back to you, and something that we think the federal government would have no problem with.
So will this line by line process that you've described be solely focused on the federal government and cases of DEI, because they haven't been revised since 11, right? So I guess,
yes, sir.
Or will it be a more broad, is it a singular focus, focusing on the federal government and concerns over DEI, or will it be a broader focus updating these standards that haven't been updated in 14, 15 years?
Dr. Kaur, Vice President Hagerman, and Superintendent Horn, and board members. I think that would be a primary focus would be to be sure that we're not doing anything that would cause hate and discontentment between us and the federal government. But I think it's time that we go through all this teaching standards and have some discussion. As the three of us at ADE went through the curriculum at our 3 state universities, we looked at several courses that we thought, kind of got away from pedagogy and didn't teach students how to teach, but the curriculum that they're assigned for, and they agreed with us. They said, yeah, we totally agree. We think there's some room for some improvement. We want to produce the student that you need in your schools. And so all 3 universities were on board with that, but they said, but we do have these teaching standards that tell us we must follow them. And some of the wording in that is why we have taken the path that we've taken.
Thank you.
Sure.
Dr. Wetke?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, and I'm not sure if I read this correctly. This is something that I'm very familiar with. I was around in 2011 when these were adopted and was part of the committee to create them. I am curious about the InTask Model Core teaching standards. It's my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong, so I just want a point of clarification. Are these standards going to be revised at a national level?
Dr. Webke, President Hagerman, board, I can't speak to that. I have technical support here in the way of my DAS for certification, who may have a little bit more insight than I do. Jamie, can you speak to that or not?
Vice President Hagerman and Member Webke, at this time, we're unsure as to if those will be adjusted or updated. Many of the national standards have been undergoing different modifications and updating, but looking at the website for the InTask standards, we haven't heard if those ones will be updated. So we're kind of waiting to see if those will be updated as well.
I ask this because I would hate to convene a committee only to have the standards that we are looking at to be revised in short order as anything works these days. And so I would, before we, do anything, I would really like to do some more investigation to make sure this item is not on the docket for revision, because it just seems like we might be working on something that will be soon revised. And so that was my one thing that I really would like to take a look at. And the other thing is, in terms of the committee composure, I would like to request, I know you're looking for a working group of experts around the state, and I'm hoping that perhaps it could also include maybe some national experts if there are people out there that we think should be included, and not just solely limit it to the state. It's just, in my experience, at times when we have national experts, it really broadens our thinking about what other people are doing and how other people are handling these same things. So that would be one thing that I would like to look at. But I really would like to see how we might find out if these standards are going to be revised.
So noted.
So just to kind of give you a sense of order, we'll do Member Cantonese, Superintendent Horn, and then Dr. Clay. So Member Cantonese.
Thank you. Actually, my question was Dr. Webke's question. It's also my understanding that our national standards are about a year away. And so with that understanding and putting resources in the right places, my recommendation is maybe we wait to see what the national standards are as well.
Superintendent Horn.
Yes. At this stage, all we're asking to do is to open rulemaking so we can examine this. No decisions can be made, and ultimately the decision is being made by this board, not by the department, but the department wants to start working on this. If we wait till we're in the crosshairs, it might be too late. And we don't want to chance $800 million. There'll be plenty of time. The rulemaking process is very lengthy. There'll be plenty of time to see what's happening at the national level. All we're asking is that we get started on it so we don't get caught flat-footed. We're in the middle of the rulemaking process, and the federal government has now got us in their crosshairs.
Dr. Clay?
Thank you. My question is, if approved, how will you select the members? I mean, not the members, but the members of the committee. Is that going to be very transparent, very open? And will we know when that happens?
Dr. Clay, President, Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn. Yeah, we can certainly do that. I have not sat down with my staff to build out a committee yet. So there's that work to do, but we certainly can keep you informed of where we are with the selection of the committee and the cross group that we've put together to represent the state of Arizona, because that's what we want to do, represent the state.
Okay, so
Without it being so large and so burdensome that we can't get anything done, there's that balance.
I don't think this would be large or burdensome. I think this is very important. So my recommendation, strong recommendation, is you get a good crosshairs of who is going to be selected, and this should not just be, you selecting it. That somehow should be placed so that it's so transparent that it's okay with the state, because this is really big. And if we just allow you guys to say, this is who we want, that's going to cause some perceptions. And I want us to be as transparent as possible so that once the information is given to us, we have enough representation, rural superintendents, teachers, or whoever else we want to be on that, and not in just one area, and not somebody that everybody knows. Okay, this has to be, we have to go into this strategic, transparently, and as I'm going to say as transparent as possible to stop any perceptions. Thank you.
Dr. Hightower?
Thank you so much. From my perspective, because it could be the Arizona INTAS teaching standards or the national, I think it would behoove the State Board of Ed to look at what the national standards are right now and what is the timeline for that revision before jumping into rulemaking, and then maybe potentially having to call back stakeholders to support throughout the process.
So I got a question for what other states are using INTAS standards right now?
I will yield to my DAS.
You might get a couple of questions, but you want to stay here.
Thank you. Vice President Hagerman, because they are national standards, most states utilize INTAS standards in some way, shape, or form. And so for Arizona, as Mr. Bailey said, we utilize them as guidance to the field in the areas of the professional development as well as evaluation. We happen to use them in rule for not only, we adopted them as Arizona professional teaching standards, but we also utilize them as a guide for our educator prep programs. And so that's where we're also looking at for us, for our EPPs, where we reference them as far as alignment, making sure that what we put into rule for our EPPs, referring to what's adopted in that sector and or the national standards. So if it's not necessarily, let's say, an elementary education program, but more an admin program, then we would look at the national standards for that, or like a psychology program. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
Yeah. Now, the next question is, any other state revising their teaching standards to be in alignment with the executive order at this point?
There are other states that are doing the work, but I would have to come back to you to see who has paused that work, just due to Right.
And my last question is, you mentioned that in 2011, the feds had requested that the INTASC standards be adjusted at that point. Has the feds made any request to INTASC at this point to revise the standards?
I don't have the answer to that question. I know in 2013, there was a slight revision, but it was not due to this kind of a mandate. It was not due to a DEI kind of thing. I do know that there are other groups that are working on adjusting standards, whether it be for looking at updating for educator prep pieces, as well as through the work of CCSSO, the Chief School State Officers organization, which is where INTASC came from. But we can look into that a little bit more for you and come back with that.
Thank you. Okay, Superintendent Horn.
Yeah, I just want to point out, we're not asking anybody to jump into anything. We're asking to be authorized to start work on something that is part of a very long process. And ultimately, nothing gets done without the approval of this board. But we want to head start. We don't want to find ourselves flat-footed in the middle of a situation where we're in crosshairs and we haven't done the work.
And in fact, Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horman, board members, and in fact, we've received a minimum of 3 communications telling us you better get things lined up accordingly because your funding is at stake. So,
Dr. Wettke and then Member Catanese.
I have a couple of thoughts on this. I'm wondering, because there have been a lot of questions presented today in regards to the possible revision of the INTASC Model Core teaching standards. And I'm wondering if we could postpone this item so the staff can get the questions in terms of what are other states doing, the possible revision of those standards, if at our this could be tabled until our next board meeting, so that gives the staff the time to get answers to those questions. That would be something that I would like to see happen. Along with Dr. Clay's remarks, I'd like to recommend that, because obviously at some point I think that there will be some revisions going on, especially if the if the INTASC Model Core teaching standards are revised. At some point, there will be probably a committee that's going to be looking at this. And so I would like to recommend that we have 2 members of our board, the state board, on that committee.
Executive Director Ross.
Dr. Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Just to address a couple of procedural things. Dr. Webke, the board always has the ability to vote on a voting item, to approve an item, to reject an item, or to table an item to a future meeting. So just as a reset for all board members, that is something that is possible for any given item. And then the board does have the ability to share a list of recommendations with the department for members of a working group if it so chooses. So that's something that we could work with the department together if that's the direction the board wants to go.
Okay. Member Catanese.
Thank you, Dr. Hagerman. I guess along with Dr. Webke's question and Dr. Hagerman, your question, I think thinking about it from a teacher's perspective, if we do have national standards like that are going to be changed that every state is going to adhere to, and then we are also trying to do it ourselves, like as a teacher, it could be sometimes confusing if you have to change what you're being taught. And so again, the process of this sort of rollout of when these national standards happen, I think that would be really helpful to know when we're making this decision, because if it's going to happen sooner than later, then my own recommendation would be to wait for the national standards. But if it's going to take a while, then that's also something that we can then discuss how we as a state might be trying to change standards to better our students, better our state. But that is really the part that I think I need to understand to know when the national standards are going to roll out.
Member Catanese, Dr. Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, board members. just please keep in mind that by statute, these teaching standards are recommendations to the field. They're under no obligation now to follow them. The only one that's under obligation to follow them is those that have certification programs that we certify, like the universities, as the example. They're the ones that really feel like they're caught a little bit between a rock and a hard spot, knowing what's coming down from Washington, D.C., and they agree with us. Man, we understand there's some things we need to clean up. So all three universities agreed with us, but for all schools and school districts, these are recommendations only. So it's up to you to use them or adjust them any way you see fit.
Superintendent Horn?
I think maybe the executive director can tell us how long rule changes typically take. I think this is a lengthy process.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. So just to clarify some terminology, what the board has before them today is a vote whether or not to open the professional teaching standards for revision. It is not a vote related to rulemaking today. It would be a vote to open the standards revision process, which involves the department forming a working group, the working group working to revise those standards, a draft of those standards coming before the board. If the board approves, then going forward for a public review period, going back to the working group at the department for revision, and then coming back to the board for final adoption. That process can take a variable amount of time. I've overseen K-12 standards revisions that took 2 years. These are much smaller sets of standards, so they're, it's probably a smaller time frame. However, there is a rulemaking component to this in that, interestingly, when these standards were adopted in 2011 by the board, they were also placed directly into rule, into R72.602. So there would be a rulemaking component kind of at the tail end of this process that you all would make a decision about either taking the revised standards and placing them in or removing them completely and just referring to the standards, which is done in most cases. So there is that component later, but right now what's under consideration is opening the standards review process. Does that answer your question, Superintendent Horn?
Yes. Typically, how many months does it take or years?
So again, depends on the size of the standards. A full K-12 set of standards would take anywhere from 18 months to 2 years. A smaller set of standards, for example, we revised the educational technology standards back in 2020, and that took about 9 months. So that just as a gauge, we're a smaller set of standards versus a larger set.
So I just want to make the point that where we're facing the possibility of an axe falling on $800 million and something that would typically take 8 months and not knowing how quickly the federal government is going to act, all we're asking is we get started doing the work. Ultimately, nothing happens without the approval of the board.
All right. Since we have kind of Dr. Webke, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand at first.
Thank you very much. I'm thinking, I totally understand, Superintendent Horn, some of the remarks that you're making. And in terms of timing and moving forward on some of these, I do think it's important to, well, let me back up here. One thing I just want to, Mr. Bailey, one of the things that I did want to share is I think school districts use these standards more than you might be aware. As the former executive director of the Arizona K-12 Center, we made several publications and documents to support these standards to help guide professional learning within a school system and individual schools. And we had entire districts and entire schools buying this document because they wanted it in the hand of their teachers. So I do think it's used. Now, obviously, I've been out of the system for a couple of years, so things might have changed, but I do think school districts use them more than one might think. I'm thinking there might be some things in anticipation that you could start working on, but I would really advocate only just postponing the decision. I just really feel I would like some answers to these questions so that I can make an educated, my best solid decision, how we can best move forward with this, because I do think there are a lot of questions, and what I don't want to do is start working on these standards and then have them changed again. I want to make, I want to work smarter, not harder.
Executive Director Ross.
Dr. Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Just a reminder, as far as timeline goes, we do not have a meeting in November, so our December meeting is always early. It's December 8th this year, second Monday in December. So just in case people were wondering about timelines, that would be the next board meeting, December 8th.
Kind of hearing a sense, Dr. Wecky, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to move, and if it needs to be finessed, please let me know. I'd like to move this item to the December meeting. And in the interim, direct the staff to get answers to the questions that have been presented today. I'd also, not part of the motion, but well, that would be my motion right now.
Executive Director Ross, any adjustment to the motion needed at this point?
Dr. Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. No, the motion is fine as presented to table the decision until the December meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second, Lupita.
All right. I'm thinking we do a roll call.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hagerman. I was just going to make that same suggestion. So again, the motion is to table the vote, table the item until the December meeting on December 8th. Vice President Hagerman.
I'll explain my vote. I'm kind of in agreement that there's some table setting and some background knowledge that'll help us. I don't think it'll add time to the ultimate process if we get clarity before we start the process. And so I vote in favor of the motion.
Superintendent Horn?
Yeah, explaining my vote, I think that there's going to be plenty of time in an 8-month process to gather all this information. And I'm fearful that if we act too slowly, we may get caught in a situation where we can't get it done in time and we're facing the axe from the federal government. I therefore vote no. With the idea that there's plenty of time in an 8-month period and certainly in the next month to answer all the questions that have been requested to be answered.
Member Catanese?
Yes.
Dr. Clay?
I vote no. I'd like to explain my vote.
Go ahead, Dr. Clay.
From my point of view right now, opening it up and just examining everything and seeing what's there, I don't see anything extremely wrong with that. So just to get ahead of everything, I vote no.
Dr. Kaur?
Thank you, Sean. Also explaining my vote. I think a 6-week delay to get a better sense of the lay of the land is certainly appropriate, so I will vote yes.
Dr. Cruz Rivera?
Yes.
Dr. Hightower?
Yes.
Member Kravickas? Dr. Webke?
Yes.
Excuse me. Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, the motion to table until the item until December passes 6-3.
All right. We are moving on to item 4E, Executive Director Ross.
Superintendent Horn, Vice President Hagerman, members of the board. Up next, we have a second request from the department related to the revision of board-approved documents. And with us to present today is Associate Superintendent Adela Santa Cruz. Adela?
There we go. A lot of buttons here. Thank you. Good morning. I think it's still morning. Dr. Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the State Board of Education. My name is Adela Santa Cruz, and I am the Deputy Associate Superintendent, it's a long title, in the Office of English Language Acquisition Services, that's even longer, and the Migrant Education Program at the Arizona Department of Education. This morning, I am here to make a request. The formal request is to open the process, and you've heard those words before this morning, but it's to open the process to make revisions to the Structured English Immersion, or as we call it, the SEI Endorsement Course Framework. It is a framework that we use for teaching teachers who are being prepared to obviously meet the needs of our English language learners in the classroom. That particular framework was approved by the State Board of Education in 2020. I think you've seen this before as well, but I must reiterate the executive order that was received in January of this year, 14151, that basically says that we need to end all discriminatory programs, including DEI. It was very clear. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. And obviously, any of those activities in the federal government under whatever name they appear. That was very clear. In addition, on April 3rd, subsequent to that particular document that we received, the Arizona Department of Education received letters from the United States Department of Education requiring that the department certify Arizona districts and charters to be in compliance with their anti-discrimination obligations in order to continue receiving, and this is very important, federal financial assistance. We obviously take this very seriously. It's very clear to us what is being asked of here. And so each school district and each service school, public school in Arizona, was notified that they had to submit a completed certification to us, to Arizona Department of Education, no later than April the 24th. And we did, in fact, do this, make sure that they were in compliance with what the federal government had asked us to do. In addition, in August of this year, just a few months ago, an acceleration of the president's executive order, the 14151 that we've been talking about, was reported, and it was the first step in the federal administration's move. It was very clear in their move to remove multilingual services from federal agencies across the board, an effort the Justice Department has ramped up. So there are several documents, obviously, that have been received. As we at ADE and OLS received and reviewed documents that are sent to school districts, charter schools, programs, any providers, we need to ensure that we are complying with Federal Executive Order 14151. Additionally, our office has received questions from the field, obviously, and we are looking at the verbiage that is included in the framework of that SEI, Structured English Immersion Framework, that is used to train teachers of English language learners. And that verbiage has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's very clear. And we are looking, obviously, very clearly at following what that Federal Executive Order 14151 states. We are responding to the questions by proposing the necessary edits in the verbiage of the SEI endorsement course framework to be compliant with the federal government. And again, there is verbiage in that structured English immersion course framework that is very clearly, obviously, sections that the Federal Executive Order 14151 asks us to look at and to revise, if you will. Now, as an example, in the SEI endorsement course, again, this is a course that is used to prepare teachers who are going to be going into the classroom to teach our English language learners. In that endorsement course, there's original language, which we'll see on the left-hand side there, and then some possible revisions. We are in no way saying this is what we're going to do. It's not up to us to do it. This is possible revisions that would be made to comply with that executive order. And you'll see those revisions in red. I'll show you a little bit more on the following slide. I apologize, it's very small, but that's the best we could do in terms of a slide. But you'll see the original language on the left and the possible revisions on the right. All of these very much in line with what obviously is being asked of us in that executive order. And what we're looking at is not changing the structure of the course in any way. We're looking at revising the verbiage so that we can be in compliance with that federal, obviously, order, and obviously not risk any of that funding. That is very much a part of what we do, what we use for our programs, English language learners, Title I, and others as well. I'm here obviously talking about the English language learners. That's my area. And I know that in terms of compliance, we need to be looking at some verbiage that is very much going to be an issue. So these are some possible revisions. In terms of the endorsement course, we have presently about 58 providers, if you will. We have 31 districts and charters that use this SCI framework to teach their teachers who are being prepared to teach English language learners. We have 12 independent providers, and we have 15 universities and colleges throughout the country that use the same framework. So in order to obviously comply with the requests.
Oh, that's sorry.
Oh, okay, that wasn't me. Okay.
Hover over the wrong thing.
No, that's okay. So in order to obviously comply with that request, we would be bringing together, obviously, a group of educators that would help us to do that as well. It's not just a matter of striking out verbiage, but there is some very, very clear verbiage that needs to be looked at, and we would be bringing together stakeholders that would assist us in doing that. Okay, I didn't put a questions on their slide because I figured you would have questions anyway, so didn't want to waste your time with that. But
You know us well, huh?
I try to ignore it, but I can't. Anyway, thank you. So if you do have questions, I will try to answer them as best as I can.
Thank you. Questions? Dr. Hightower.
Thank you so much. So I know in my last 30 years, we've seen different ways of educating multi-language learners, including the way that I was educated when I first came to this amazing country. So I know that in my opinion, in the way that we have set up the Sheltered English Instruction Endorsement Course Framework, I feel like throughout the years, it has been diminished, I think, for different reasons. So would we have the opportunity and would it be possible within this review period that the stakeholders, the experts, including in this review, are well-known, are nationally recognized, have evidence-based research to strengthen the education and the outcomes of the students? And I do feel that this would be a great opportunity to serve all students in their multilingualism, as they're definitely going to be leading our future. So that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, I think I understand the question. Dr. Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, member, Hightower. In order to to make the kind of changes that I think you're talking about, or at least review, we would need to be looking at the models. And at this point, we're not looking at the models of structured English immersion. We are only looking at the framework that is used to train those teachers. And so any other work that would involve the models would have to go through this board. It would take quite a bit of time for revisions. The only item that we're looking at this point is, again, verbiage that is part of the framework. And that framework basically has to do with expectations and behaviors that we have for our students. And I find that a little bit interesting because as a teacher, I was a teacher for 35 years of English language learners. And I didn't feel a need to have any of these expectations, any of these behaviors written down. I knew that when a student went through that door, my front door, I knew that I value every single student. I knew that that student was obviously one that was there to learn, and it was my job to provide the academics for that student. And the verbiage that we currently have, what I'm alluding to in terms of revisions, really speaks very candidly to things that behaviors and expectations that we have of teachers. And I just find it hard to think that teachers, if they are there to teach students, they're already doing that. So I don't think that would obviously change anything, honestly, but we do need to make sure that that verbiage is reviewed very carefully so we don't jeopardize the kind of funding that we have, not only for our English language learners, but for all our students, all that funding that comes to us from the federal government. I hope I answered your question kind of a roundabout, but I hope I did.
Thank you, Ms. Santa Cruz.
You're very welcome.
Dr. Clay and then Dr. Webke.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. First, of course, the stakeholders and the committee.
Right.
All right. My concern is that whoever is elected to be on this committee will have the same passion that maybe you have. Okay, and I'm not saying your passion is wrong. All right. I'm just saying I just want to have across the board everybody bringing their perception and their perspective and their landscape to the table. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm looking at some of these that you've crossed out, and there's room for conversation with what I'm seeing right now. There's room for, let's talk about perspectives and my background and your background. I came in also when we were teaching SEI, and I had to get the endorsement, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that if I didn't have that training, and I had students from not just Hispanic, but from different places in Africa, and the training helped me deal with all these different cultures in the classroom, and then trying to match these kids up with somebody who can help them while I still taught. And if I didn't have this training, then I would be focusing not on reading and writing or the curriculum. I'd be focusing on trying to get the student to understand what I'm saying. So I believe that I'm just looking at what's redlined now. And even what's redlined now, there's room for discussion. So my concern is always going to be the who is going to be part of this. And is this really going to help us? Is it going to, if looking at that's looking at the glass halfway full, halfway empty. If I look at it halfway full, I can say, okay, this can be a great opportunity for us to strengthen the program, to strengthen it. And the only way we can do that is to have a broad section of committee members who think differently, who see things differently, and whose experience are different. This is how we're going to get a great, robust document. So those, and in fact, it's not a question, those are just my comments. I told you what I'm concerned about and what I'd like to see. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Dr. Webke, did you have your hand up? Maybe I was wrong.
Yes, I did, and I took it down, but I do have a question. First of all, I want to echo, I really appreciate, Dr. Clay, the comments that you made. I think this is not my area of expertise. Unlike teaching standards, this is not my area of expertise, but I think it's really, the part that is knowing your students and knowing your students and their families, and how do we know their backgrounds and how do we incorporate that. And I think the overarching challenge for me, and I don't expect you to answer this, but we use the words diversity, equity, inclusion. And I think if I asked 5 people what that means, 5 people would say something different. I'd get 5 different answers. And typically what I have, diversity, equity, inclusion, well, it means diverse, it means equal, it means inclusion. We just use the same words. And I think it's much more nuanced than that, because there are things that are crossed out here that I just don't see how that matches that language, so I'm not sure. I think as this moves forward, it's very important to have a very diverse committee. And I just have some serious concerns.
Any other questions? Oh, Dr. Cruz Rivera.
I also have some concerns pertaining to how the charge would be framed to the committee. The sample documents with the strike-throughs that we have seen, I'm not comfortable with how that could be taken to be a very surgical attempt to comply with an executive order that I believe is still under litigation. Could you say a little bit about how these committees, which I agree must be comprised of the right folks to ensure that we have rigorous debate and the best possible outcome, how are they charged? What is the specific charge that they receive once this board decides to approve opening this process up?
I think that was a question.
Yes.
Dr. Hagerman, yes.
Yeah.
Superintendent Horn, Dr. Cruz Rivera. In answer to your question, I would hope and I would think, honestly, that this particular group of stakeholders is just what that term means, and that is they have a stake in making some recommendations. And what I showed you as possible revisions are just that, possible. Okay, just to give an example. And there may be some that obviously comply with what we are looking at, some that may not. This is just some possibilities. But getting back to the stakeholders, we are looking at really assembling a group of professionals who are very much versed with what is important for English language learners. All right, that has been really my whole life. I'm a second language learner myself. And knowing that those stakeholders also have that particular kind of frame of mind, that they will be able to give us the kind of recommendations that perhaps we were hoping, obviously, are going to be possible and that are going to comply. I'm very concerned with complying with the executive order. And I know that the federal government has very, very strictly indicated to us that the federal monies, over, again, 866 million that are probably going to be the case for fiscal year 26, that those could be jeopardized. And I am very concerned, obviously, with making sure that our students have the kind of funding, backing, and instruction that they deserve and that they are entitled to. And having said that, we need to have those educators who will make those decisions for them that have their best interest at heart. And so that's who we would be looking at in terms of a stakeholder committee statewide that would make those decisions. But presently, I'm looking and I'm asking for your support in starting this process of looking at those revisions in the verbiage so that, in fact, it does not become an issue for us when it comes to funding. And that I'm very concerned with. So I'm hoping I answered your question, Dr. Cruz Rivera.
Thank you. I guess, and I believe you generally answered the question, but when this group is brought forth into a kickoff meeting and they are told what it is that they are supposed to try to accomplish, what is that charge? Because right now, if I try to reverse engineer that charge from the sample edits that have been presented to us, it's not a charge I feel comfortable with. And so I would want to know what it is that we would be asking them to do.
Well, excuse me, Dr. Hagerman, Superintendent Horn.
Yeah, I think the charge would be, we need you to help us be sure that we don't lose $800 million. That's the charge. And I would remind everybody, we are playing with $800 million. I'm the elected administrator who's going to have to deal with the consequences of a major cutoff of funding for our schools and our students. This is a very serious situation. Now, some of you disagree with what the administration is doing, but they were elected, they have the power, and we have to avoid that consequence. And that is the charge.
Thank you.
Cruz Rivera, any further questions? Are you?
I'll cogitate a little more.
Okay, process a little bit.
I know there's other colleagues that have their hands up.
Okay, Dr. Clay. Okay.
How will you choose this? How will you choose your stakeholders? I mean, how will you choose your committee members? Tell me.
Dr. Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, Member Dr. Clay. At the Arizona Department of Education, we are very very fortunate to have, obviously, contacts as we work with the field on a daily basis. And when, again, the time comes to set up committees, we send information out, starting in this particular case, to our list that we have. We call it our PAL list. It's Practitioners of English Language Learning, and that's where we would start. And again, we want to ensure that we have, obviously, some contact with every county in the state. And we go out and very carefully ensure that we have contacts and obviously make the contact there, and that leads us to others. But we want to ensure that we have those who have obviously the knowledge, the background in the area, and obviously are able to help us in making some recommendations, because that's what we'll be looking at.
Okay, thank you. The perception right now seems like that's a very secretive club-like thing that you're talking about. I need to know that this is going to be open. I would like to see not just your list, but something sent out to all the county superintendents. Something sent out to everybody, giving everyone a chance who may have different perspectives to be on this committee. And I would like this reported to this board, what you're doing and how that committee, who's on the committee, how I don't understand the process. Okay, and my other thing is that we don't want things to sound like it's a secret. And that's what it sounds like right now. And if we do anything, we need to do it correctly. We cannot do things on a knee jerk. We have to be strategic. We have to understand that we can't do things unilaterally. We need to do this correctly so that the stakeholders and so that we're all included. And that's one of the things I'm going to be looking at. So here we go. So you're saying that there's a list and you're going to pick through this list. Is that correct?
Superintendent Horn.
Yes, we will report to the board what we're doing. There will be, is somebody else talking?
Oh, there's somebody.
We will report to the board what we are doing, and there'll be full transparency. There'll be no secrets.
It will be, as you said, full disclosure, okay? And I did mention just a PAL list because that's the place where we start, but we just go from there. And obviously, we would open that up to the full, all 15 counties throughout the state, so that we would have not only full disclosure, because this is not, it's not a secret. It's not anything that we're trying to do to undermine anyone. What we're trying to do here is to make sure that we have done everything possible to ensure that a process is in place that's going to be obviously for our English language learners, yes, but also right now, more important, not more importantly, but very importantly, to ensure that we do not jeopardize in any way those federal monies for our students. And that's just full disclosure.
Dr. Webke.
And let's do it the right way.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, Dr. Clay. I'm sorry. Go.
I just said, just let's do it the right way, that there's no perceptions from the field that we are not doing this, that we are doing this correctly. We are doing this professionally, and we're doing this transparently.
Understood. Thank you.
Dr. Webke, and then.
I think my challenge is these, unlike the teaching standards, these standards are only 5 years old. The coursework, the endorsement, the requirements, and the frameworks, it's only 5 years old. And I really appreciated Dr. Clay's remarks in terms of being a knee-jerk reaction. And I understand the executive order and the pressure from that we are under. But at one point, we felt really strongly about these standards, about this framework, because this is what was adopted. And it's not like something that's over 10 years old. It's 5 years old. I also appreciate the remarks by Dr. Cruz Rivera. And I'm just wondering if we could have more clarity. First of all, I would like to make sure that when this committee is selected, or task force, or whatever we're going to call it, that not only do we consult the counties, but we consult our university system, our community college system, and our education stakeholder groups. I think that is really important. Obviously, people that have expertise in these, and I think that will give the kind of diversity, the broad scope of viewpoints that Dr. Clay has recommended. And I'm wondering if perhaps we could have more clarity and do like we did the other one, postpone this to December, but have answers to these questions and how members to be more focused on how this committee is going to be selected, and share more openly the process that's going to be used.
Dr. Kaur, and then Member Kavickas.
Thank you for presenting to us today. I share some of the concerns of my colleagues. I fully realize what you provided with us was a sample of strike-throughs, but I would have a lot of problem with just those samples. For instance, there was talk crossed out of leveraging your native language. We had an opportunity to meet a young woman today from San Luis, Arizona. Amazing, right? Is gonna put astronauts into space. Amazing in every way. She's leveraging her superpower of bilingualism. I work and live and serve a border town. 55% of our students at Arizona Western College, English is not their native language. I think as presented, without a very clear charge, as I heard Dr. Cruz Rivera kind of make two runs at to get something better defined, we have a very real possibility of overshooting, going just too far and being destructive. So I'm concerned. I would share in my colleagues' request for a very defined charter or charge. What exactly is this group to do, so we don't swing too far the other way and damage the academic prospects of so many of our students that none of us want. So those are my concerns, and I'm not sure there's a question in there, but other than to reiterate a desire for a very clearly articulated charge of this group. I also like Dr. Clay's, who's going to be on it, how they're selected, how are they going to meet, but in its very simple form, when they get in that room, what are they being asked to do? And that needs to be some pretty narrow parentheses in my mind, not real broad parentheses, or I think we'll overshoot. Thanks.
Member Kavickas, and then Superintendent Horn.
Thank you. Hi, Dallas. Always nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thank you.
Anybody who's watched me over the years knows I love debating policy. It's just what I love to do. So I'm always willing to open up conversations, rulemaking, because it's a conversation, but I couldn't agree more with my colleagues about a clearly defined charge and about the who and the when and the where. But I'd also like to remind us that we had conversations about special ed guidance last month and evaluation templates, and we didn't raise these, and we do. It's been a month. I don't know if there's meetings, who's talking about them, who's evaluating these documents. It's not a public process. And depending on the issue, but I would say always, parents are an important stakeholder, at least the parents or the people that serve them, right? The people who take the calls from the parents and help them navigate these complex systems, I think, are critical stakeholders as well. But so again, I'm always open to starting a conversation and opening up processes, but they've got to be public, and we need to know who's on them, and we need to be getting briefed along the way, but that includes special ed. Thank you.
Superintendent Horn.
Okay. I'm someone who values clarity. I thought I made it clear, but I'll reiterate. The charge is avoid an $800 million cut to our budget for our students. That's the charge. And I want to be sure, I'm going to ask my fellow board members to think about what a serious issue that is. You may not agree with the ideology. Somebody was elected and he has the power. You may not agree with the ideology, but we must avoid an he's got the power to cut that funding. And we must avoid an $800 million cut to our budget for our students. And I'm not sure that's sinking in, and I'm upset about it.
Any additional questions? Once again, Dr. Webke.
Okay, first of all, Superintendent Horn, I hear what you are saying. The overarching charge is to be in compliance with this executive order, but I think the devil is in the details on how we get there. And I think the way it's presented today, I just think we need more clarity in terms of how it's going to be presented, who's going to be on the committee, how that committee is going to be chosen, and kind of a timeline. So I'm wondering if, again, we could do the same thing that we did with the teaching standards, postpone this vote until next month so that the staff could come up with a charge, a more defined charge, besides just losing the money, which obviously that's why we're brought here today. It is this executive order, but could we be more defined on the nuances of this committee and what we're going to do? Because I do agree with my board members. Some of the things that were redlined out, I have some questions about. And if I was presented these as a committee member, I would think, oh, okay, or maybe not. I don't know. But I just think we need to be more thoughtful in terms of how we articulate that charge and who's going to be on this committee. I'm not saying that we can't, all I'm asking is that perhaps, and I'd be happy to make a motion that we postpone this until December so we can have greater clarity around the questions that the board members have asked. I think we've waited this long. I think another 6 weeks or so is not going to hurt.
So, Executive Director Ross, I kind of hear that as a motion, but clarify as needed.
Dr. Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. So there is a motion before the board to table the item to December to allow staff for ADE and the board to present and answer questions.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
A second from Dr. Cruz Rivera. I'm thinking we'll need a roll call.
Dr. Hagerman?
So I'll explain my vote. I do think the state and the board needs to be in compliance with the executive order. I think the best way to get there is by having clarity about what our process and what our charge is to get there. I think going into a process without that clarity doesn't necessarily get us there any quicker. So for that reason, I'm in support of the motion.
Superintendent Horn?
I vote no, and I'm on record into perpetuity of doing whatever I could to be sure that we avoid an $800 million cut to our students.
Member Catanese? See, he's no longer with us. Okay. Dr. Clay?
I vote yes. I do want to comply with the federal government, but the letter of the law and the spirit of the law is that we do it. The spirit of the law is that we do it right, so that in our compliance is done in a way that is transparent and correct and not a knee jerk.
Dr. Kaur?
Yes.
Dr. Cruz Rivera?
Yes.
Dr. Hightower?
Yes.
Member Kravickas? Dr. Webke?
Yes.
Dr. Hagerman, the motion passes. The ayes have it.
All right. I think we're at a place where we need a break. What do you think?
10 minutes?
10 minutes. We'll take a 10-minute break.
So we reconvene at 11:27. Dr. Hagerman, we do have a quorum.
All right. So we will move to item 4A, Deputy Director DePlanty. Did I do that right?
Yeah. Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members. 4F is as a presentation, discussion of possible action to open rulemaking for R72612 relating to the CTE certificates. This request came from the field and superintendents about proactive versus reactive folks in getting certified and how the allowable deficiency of 3 years impacted that to allow them to waive requirements and specifically the professional knowledge requirement. So the ADE worked with stakeholders and then brought draft rule language to the your certification advisory committee, who considered that in October, early October, and then passed unanimously the recommendation, the draft language that's included in the item. And basically what it does is it extends the allowable time frame for deficiencies for the CTE certificate from 3 to 4 years. It defines deficiency, and then there's some clarifying rule language things as part of that package as well. It's been a while since that rule had been touched, and so some technical changes. But yes, this comes to you from the CAC and a vote from 12-0 unanimously recommending that you open this rule.
All right. Do I have any questions? All right. Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I have a question.
I'm sorry, Dr. Clay. Go for it.
This is just the question is, how do you, I'm looking for it right now, I just had it. When you verify the hours, how is yeah, that's right. The 240 clock hours of verified work experience in a CT occupational area. How is that certified? So can anybody tell me?
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, Dr. Clay is the, I can answer that as my previous role was over there over at the ADE.
Tapping into background knowledge.
Yeah. And so the department has verification forms available to applicants, and they provide that to previous employers, and that comes in. And so they do their best to check to verify that information, but it's based on verification of industry credentials. There's many options in the CTE rule in terms of hours, but yeah, that is verified via a signature from the place of employment prior.
Okay, so my other question is, that's one way, but is there? I was told another way, and I just want to clarify it, that a superintendent can say this person. The superintendent can verify and say this person has had this many hours and sign off on it, and that would be the hours.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, Dr. Clay, yeah, that is in board rule. That superintendents can do that. I think over time, what we found is as leadership in different employers changes, the superintendents may have connections to the business field and may be the right person to help verify that information. It just kind of removes a barrier for applicants.
Okay, thank you. That's always been a question in the back of my mind. For more debate later, but yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion that the board open rulemaking procedures for AAC R7-2-612 relating to career and technical education teaching certificates? Do I have a motion?
So go ahead, Dr. Kaur.
So moved.
Second.
All right, and I'm supposed to remind everyone to unmute when we vote here. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right. So, right, we move to now to item 4G, Deputy Director DePlanty. I almost gave you an honorary doctorate degree there.
There's been 2 doctorates dispensed today.
We'll keep moving them.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. This is really just an update. As you remember in the last board meeting, you voted to update administrative code in Article 7 and Article 13, the conduct standards. And so board staff scheduled a public hearing for October 21st. There were no registrants for public comment in regard to that draft language. We did reschedule for October 23rd. Again, there were no public comments for that public hearing, but otherwise I just stand for, I will tell you that following your opening of the rule, we did already apply some feedback from the field in regard to a definition around service, as well as a little bit of the language to clarify, when the summative action, what that entails. And so there's a few changes. It is in the draft that's attached to the item, but otherwise I stand for questions.
All right. Any questions related to that? All right, seeing none. Now we will move to item 5, call to the public. This is a time for the public to comment on items listed in the educator discipline section of the agenda. Please note that Arizona law prohibits the board from discussing or taking legal actions on matters raised during a call to the public that are not on the current meeting agenda. Each speaker has 2 minutes to address the board during the 1-hour public comment period. Furthermore, speakers are not allowed to cede their time to another speaker, and personal attacks are not appropriate. Deputy Director DePlanty, have we received any requests to speak?
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members, we've received one request for this call to the public, and it's online. Taylor Semeski, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Taylor Sasemski, and I'm the attorney here on behalf of Corey Burgess, agenda item 782. I am here today to ask the board to approve Mr. Burgess's negotiated settlement agreement. I don't have any further comment at this time, but I am available to answer any questions the board may have. Thank you for your time.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members, that concludes this call to the public.
All right, so we now move on to item 6. This consent agenda for enforcement actions will take place in a single motion. Are there any items from the consent agenda for enforcement actions that a member would like to pull or discuss? I think Member Hightower has to recuse herself from D1. Other than that?
Yes.
All right. All right. So I'm going to read this. Executive Director Ross, make sure we get this correct. So the motion, do I have a motion to approve items 6A1 through 6A3, 6B1 through 6B2, 6C1, and 6E1 and 6 through 6E4? Do I have such a motion?
So moved, Hightower.
And then do I have a second?
Could you repeat that, please? No, I'm just teasing. Yes, I second.
Please, Lord, no. All right. Like I said before, please unmute. But can we? Do I have approve the motion? All in favor? There we go. We got there.
Aye.
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 Dr. Kaur set me ajar there for a moment. All right. So now we had the last item, item 6D1. Do I have a motion with first item 6D1?
So moved.
Dr. Webke, do I have a second?
Second.
Member Kavikas. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And now we will move to item 7, certification enforcement actions general session. Are there any items from the consent agenda for environment actions that a board member would like to pull or discuss? All right. Do I have a motion to approve items 7A1 through 7A9, 7B1 through 7B4, and 7C1? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Webke, do I have a second?
Second, Hightower.
Second, Hightower. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And now we move on to item 8, Executive Director Ross.
Vice President Hagerman, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Our next board meeting will be Monday, December 8th. In the interim, board staff will reach out to department staff to work on questions that arose during the board meeting to help solidify some of that information. And again, as a reminder, there is no November board meeting, so everyone enjoy their Thanksgiving. And once again, thank you to Dr. Kaur for actually the longest consecutive service. I don't know if you knew that, longest consecutive years. Superintendent Horn has you beat on years, number of years, but longest consecutive. And then Sandy calculated it. You have traveled over 26,000 miles for board meetings. So thank you, Dr. Kaur.
Mr. President, I have a question. Do we get to keep our sunglasses?
Yes. Is there anything else? Okay. All right. We'll call the meeting at 11:43. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hagerman.
Oh, I was gonna say, if any of the board members can stay on